Chapter 24 The Bet. Wang Dong laughed. Are you a masochist? Right, let's cultivate for a while here. Once old lady Zhou comes back and sees that we were cultivating while she was gone, she'll definitely think that we're very hardworking. I'm sure that her mood will improve as well. Huo Yuan knocked him on the head and said, you're an expert at doing these crafty things. Rubbish, you're the one who's doing crafty things. We've got a match in the afternoon, and we were somewhat drained from the match earlier. So what's wrong with recovering as soon as possible? Are you gonna do it or not? Hurry up. As he spoke, he took off his shoes and sat on the sofa in a cross-legged position. After that, he extended his hands out towards Huo Yuan. Huo Yuan had always cultivated whenever he had free time, so naturally, he wouldn't refuse. He mirrored Wang Dong's position and placed his palms against Wang Dong's palms. Then, they simultaneously circulated their soul powers. As their soul powers circulated and fused with one another, it felt somewhat different from yesterday's cultivation. Their soul powers seemed to have become more intimate, and their cultivation speeds during the initial stages of the fusion were clearly much faster than they were yesterday. The Haodong power had already appeared in the instant they touched. As they willed it, the Haodong power circulated along their cultivation paths at a speed that was at least 10% faster than yesterday. When they started cultivating, they shut their eyes. As such, they didn't notice that 3 blue, purple, and gold lights had slowly emerged from their palms. These 3 lights revolved around their arms and started to hover around their bodies, and gradually, a layer of color appeared on their bodies. Originally, they were merely planning on recovering some of their soul power. However, they quickly entered a meditative state once their cultivation started, resulting in them losing all awareness of the world. Not long after they began cultivating, Zhou Yi returned with another person in tow. If the 2 of them had been awake, they would have definitely been astonished. This was because the person that Zhou Yi brought back was their proctor during the round-robin tournament, Teacher Wang Yan. Zhou Yi was startled by the appearances of the 2 as they cultivated, while Wang Yan was completely astonished. Afterwards, the 2 of them unexpectedly gave each other a signal to remain silent. An inquiring look appeared in Zhou Yi's eyes, but Wang Yan merely shook his head. After that, he quietly walked towards their bodies and squatted down, observing their conditions. In addition to that, he started to carefully pay attention to the soul power undulations they were generating as they cultivated. As he continued to pay attention to them, the astonishment on Wang Yan's face increased. He subconsciously started to rub his hands. Zhou Yi and Wang Yan had known each other for a while. She knew that this action of his signified his nervousness and excitement. Moreover, she was a teacher herself. As such, she could also sense how unusual Huo Yuan and Wang Dong's current state was. At the very least, she had never seen something like this before. 2 soul masters were unexpectedly cultivating together, and not only did their soul powers not interfere with each other, they even fused together. They could see how quickly they were cultivating from the circulation of the 3 lights, and knew that even a 3-ring soul elder wouldn't be able to cultivate as fast as them. After completing 36 cycles of cultivation, Huo Yuan and Wang Dong stopped. The 2 managed to completely recover the soul power they had lost during their earlier match, and they even managed to increase their cultivation levels by a step. The 2 of them simultaneously let out a sigh, slowly retracting their respective soul powers. This then caused the 3 lights revolving around their bodies to slowly dissipate. As they opened their eyes, the 2 felt somewhat refreshed. Their current cultivation speed was simply too satisfying. However, they were quickly startled by the scene in front of them. Teacher Zhou, Teacher Wang. To his astonishment, Huo Yuan saw Zhou Yi and Wang Yan seated on chairs not far away from the sofa, fully concentrated on them. Wang Dong was also astonished. Only then did the 2 remember that they were still in Zhou Yi's office. Huo Yuan spoke with a slightly embarrassed voice. Teacher Zhou, we wanted to recover some of our soul power and prepare for the afternoon match. That's why we... Zhou Yi waved her hand and said, no need for any explanations. Being hardworking is always a good thing. This person is Teacher Wang Yan, an excellent teacher from the Academy's theoretical faction. He's even 1 rank higher than me as a teacher. He's very well learned with regards to martial soul fusion skills. Wang Yan smiled slightly and said, I don't think that I need to introduce myself. We've met before. I was their proctor during the round-robin tournament. The current him had already regained his usual calm look, but as for whether he was truly calm on the inside, only he himself knew the answer to that. Teacher Wang. Huo Yuan and Wang Dong simultaneously bowed to him respectfully. Wang Yan nodded his head and said, I've carefully observed your cultivations. In the beginning, I didn't believe what Zhou Yi told me, but now, I've realized that I was inexperienced. Now, I can testify to Zhou Yi with a 100% certainty that you 2 have completed a martial soul fusion, and that you possess a fusion skill. Zhou Yi looked at him with a somewhat astonished expression on her face, but she didn't interrupt him. Wang Yan continued, your soul powers are actually so compatible that they didn't even conflict with each other at all when they fused together. Moreover, the fusion even assisted your cultivation. This has never been seen in the 10,000-year records of Shrek Academy. There's only one explanation for this. That is, your martial souls are perfectly compatible, achieving a perfect 100% compatibility rate. Only this legendary occurrence could allow your soul powers to perfectly fuse without any distinctions whatsoever, and allow you to share your cultivation speeds. Congratulations. I can even foresee that you 2 will definitely become chosen of our Shrek Academy in the future. Huo Yuan couldn't help but secretly admire Wang Yan as he listened to his words. He'd heard of the words perfect compatibility from the Sky Dream Iceworm, but Wang Yan was able to deduce this by merely observing their cultivations, even though he didn't fully understand them. It was no wonder he was a representative of the Academy's theoretical faction. Puzzled, Wang Dong asked, Teacher Wang, since that's the case, why did our fusion skill fail today? Huo Yuan and I tried it out earlier, but nothing happened. Wang Yan chuckled. Do you think that fusion skills are ordinary soul skills? How could the activation of a fusion skill be so simple? Your martial souls and energies have to be at their peak conditions for a fusion skill to be activated. This is the first time I've ever seen 2 people with perfect compatibility rates, but according to my experience, there's a fixed resting period for the activation of a martial soul fusion skill. Moreover, you won't be able to activate it during this time period. This period normally lasts 7 days, but that will gradually lessen as your cultivations increase. This will happen all the way until you can completely master your fusion skill. Huo Yuan asked, Teacher Wang, when will we be able to freely use our fusion skill? Wang Yan replied, it's still too early to tell. You'd have to reach rank 70 at the very least to be able to use it freely, as you have obtained a martial soul true body by then. This is normally the case for any soul master. However, it's very likely that you 2 have a perfect compatibility rate. Thus, I suggest that you try using your fusion skill every day from now, all the way until it works again. We can then confirm the resting period of your fusion skill. Once you've confirmed the length of this resting period, come find me and let me see what your fusion skill is. I'm very curious as to what it is. With Wang Yan's explanation, Huo Yuan and Wang Dong were now much more knowledgeable about fusion skills. Zhou Yi asked, Teacher Wang, since they've achieved a perfect compatibility rate for their martial soul fusion, what other benefits does it give besides aiding them in their cultivation? Wang Yan chuckled. Teacher Zhou, a man who's never content is like a snake that's trying to swallow an elephant. You've already picked up 2 treasures. Simply allowing them to assist each other during cultivating can double their cultivation speed. You might not be able to see anything now, but give it a few years. I can guarantee that within 3 years, absolutely none of their peers will be able to compete with their cultivation levels. However, you're right to ask this question. There's another difference between perfectly compatible fusion skills and ordinary fusion skills, and that is their strengths. I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. According to the normal rules of a martial soul fusion, the higher the compatibility rate, the stronger the fusion skill will be. However, we've never seen a perfect fusion before. Hence, I wish to personally see how strong their fusion skill is, and what effects it has. Zhou Yi nodded and said, thanks for your help. Teacher Wang, shall we report this matter together? Wang Yan shook his head and smiled. No need. You can report it by yourself. You should have been promoted to a high-ranked teacher already. Furthermore, you were the one who discovered these 2 fellows. I can't steal your glory. Zhou Yi smiled and nodded at him. Wang Yan stood up and said, you little fellas have to work hard. Go into the top 32 in the knockout tournament. You'll have to work even harder once you've entered the top 8. The academy will have a few higher-ups watching you fight. Furthermore, even we teachers think that the champion prize is quite good, so you can't miss out on it. If you have any problems, you can come find me. My office is on the 4th floor. Teacher Zhou, I'll be taking my leave then. Zhou Yi walked Wang Yan all the way to the door to the office. Before leaving, Wang Yan looked deeply at Huo Yuan and Wang Dong. Zhou Yi didn't enter the room again. Instead, she beckoned towards the 2 who were still in the office. Let's go. You should eat lunch. I'll treat you to lunch today. Although she didn't explicitly state it, taking the initiative to treat them to lunch signified that she was apologizing to Huo Yuan and Wang Dong for blaming them. The two felt that it was somewhat inconceivable, but they quickly came to their senses and excitedly charged to the canteen with Zhou Yi in tow. Zhou Yi was actually quite a generous person. She unexpectedly treated them to all of the canteen's top-ranked dishes. The canteen's top-ranked dishes were extraordinarily pricey, and there were new dishes that were priced differently every day. However, their prices were always in gold soul coins. There were 2 top-ranked dishes today, and Zhou Yi ordered 2 of each, causing the total bill to exceed 60 gold soul coins. Teacher Zhou, you're spending too much on us. Huro Yuao felt a bit bad. Even after all the time he'd spent selling roasted fish, he hadn't even earned a total of 60 gold soul coins yet. Zhou Yi said, quickly, eat it while it's hot. Don't think that the academy is selling these top-ranked dishes for the sake of making a profit. In reality, the top-ranked dishes are the only dishes in the canteen that caused the academy to suffer a loss. Why? Huro Yuao and Wang Dong asked at practically the same time. Zhou Yi smiled indifferently. It's naturally for the sake of the bodies of the students. Do you two recognize these dishes? She pointed at the plates in front of her. These 2 dishes had strong fragrances. One looked like a stew, while the other was some soup. That stew was made out of lean meat and tendons. The stew itself was strong and thick, while the meat was fresh and soft to the touch. Even the tendons had been cooked in such a way that they had a soft and gelatinous texture. Merely looking at the dish would make one's appetite increase. On the other hand, the soup had a light gold color, and there was nothing inside it. There was only soup. However, its fragrance assaulted one's nose, so much so that it even smelled richer than the stew. There was even the faint smell of medicinal herbs hidden within the soup. Undoubtedly, Huro Yuao was unable to tell the names of these dishes. However, Wang Dong hesitated for a moment, then said, Teacher Zhou, this stew seems to be made out of meat of the devil scale alligator. I can't tell what the soup is made out of. Though, Zhou Yi nodded and said, you deserve to be called a child from an aristocratic family. You're right. This meat of this stew comes from the devil scale alligator, which is an extraordinarily strong amphibian soul beast. Eating its meat is a large help to us soul masters, as it can improve our physique and increase the toughness of our meridians. It's a good thing that's quite rare. Only, the meat of the devil scale alligator is as hard as steel. Thus, it takes an extremely great chef to be able to refine it into something this soft. So let me tell you this, our Shrek Academy doesn't just have the best teachers on the continent, we have the best chefs as well. An adult devil scale alligator is at the 1,000-year soul beast rank at the very least. So do you still think that this dish is expensive? As for this soup, it was made by boiling an avian soul beast for a long time, and it has the effect of nourishing one's internal organs. This can make our internal organs more stable, which can benefit our cultivation. I've said this in the past, but we have 3 students this year who've reached the soul elder rank. It's true that they're talented and hardworking, but they're also children who come from the large clans. Since their youth, they've received the assistance of the best food, drink, and medicine, which is why they are able to attain a cultivation like theirs at such a young age. Wang Dong could have also received treatment like this before coming to the academy, but as for why you haven't obtained your 3rd ring, in my opinion, it's very likely due to your laziness or a special condition in your body. Furthermore, if I haven't remembered it incorrectly, you just turned 11. Wang Dong nodded. Teacher Zhou, I'll definitely obtain my 3rd ring before I turn 12. Zhou Yi said, okay, you two should quickly start eating. Once you're done, go back and take a small rest. The afternoon match is going to start soon. I'll be reporting this matter to the higher-ups. If you're selected as a core disciple of the outer courtyard, the academy will provide you these top-ranked dishes free of charge. I'm pretty sure you can imagine how much this will benefit your cultivation. However, possessing a martial soul fusion skill doesn't mean that you'll definitely be selected as a core disciple. Remember, our Shrek Academy has no lack of geniuses. Your final ranking in the knockout tournament will greatly affect your chances at entering the circle of core disciples. Truth is, I managed to graduate from the outer courtyard during my time, but I wasn't able to become a core disciple, much less obtain the qualifications to enter the inner courtyard. But for you too, becoming a core disciple is an important step that'll help you to enter the inner courtyard. Out of all the core disciples that have been in Shrek Academy, over half of them managed to pass the inner courtyard's assessment. Also, becoming a core disciple signifies that you'll receive even more help from academy teachers. Do you understand? Yes. The two replied together. Then, they immediately gorged themselves silly. Huro Yuao and Wang Dong immediately acknowledged Zhou Yi's praise of the academy's chefs. Huro Yuao was still somewhat better. He'd never tried these types of high-ranked foodstuffs before. However, Wang Dong differed from him. He'd eaten these delicacies in the past, but the flavors created by his family's chefs couldn't compare to the dishes cooked by the academy's canteen. Once they finished eating, the two instantly felt their bodies heat up. This was especially true for their stomachs. Waves of warmth spread through their entire bodies, causing an indescribable relaxing feeling to arise. Sure enough, you really got what you paid for. Zhou Yi followed them all the way to the dorm entrance. Before leaving, she placed her hand on Huro Yuao's shoulder and whispered, since you weren't born as a noble, use your own strength to become one. With that, she turned and left. Ever since the meal had started, her icy expression seemed to have disappeared. The old man who seemed to be the dormitory manager, yet never cared about anything, continued to lean on his recliner. He seemed to have heard Zhou Yi's words, and mumbled something in response, but nobody heard him. After Huro Yuao greeted the old man as he usually did, he returned to his dorm room along with Wang Dong. They'd just finished eating, but they had to cultivate for a while. After all, wasting time was disgraceful. Furthermore, the afternoon match clearly wouldn't be as effortless as the morning match. When the afternoon bell rang, the freshman assessments knockout tournament's round of 16 officially began. When compared to the morning, the number of competing students had decreased by half. Once they drew their lots again, the students immediately headed toward their designated areas to start their respective matches. The layout of the area hadn't changed, as this match was being held on the same day as the previous match. However, only the first 16 battlefields were used for the matches. There was a tall stage erected by the northern part of the assessment area. This stage was 20 meters above the ground, and was supported by 6 metallic pillars. From the ground, it was impossible to see the number of people the stage contained. However, there were vague figures up there, as if there were people who were watching their matches. On the other hand, a distance of 20 meters from the ground was enough to overlook the entire assessment area, allowing the people up there to clearly see the state of every match. Huro Yuao and Wang Dong weren't late this time around. Instead, they came to the assessment area very early to draw their lots, causing Xiaxia to sigh in relief. This time, they were assigned to the 8th arena. By the time they arrived at the arena, the other team who'd been assigned to the 8th arena as well had already arrived. To Huro Yuao's astonishment, their opponents were all girls. Furthermore, they were young ladies who were very pretty. The spectator stage. Zhou Yi quietly stood on the stage, surveying the matches that were about to start. Class 1 had been the biggest winner among the 10 classes during the round-robin tournament, but a few strong students had begun to reveal their true potential and strength when the knockout tournament started. After the round of 32, only 5 teams from Class 1 remained. Although their numbers were greater than those from the other classes, their dominance was no longer that obvious. The round of 32 was extremely crucial. Teacher Zhou, are you looking for your seeded team? I've just looked at the lots, and coincidentally, the seeded team you've chosen just so happens to meet up with the seeded team from my class. They're over there at the 8th arena. Say, who do you think will win? A 30 or so year old female teacher had walked up to Zhou Yi and spoken with an amused tone. Zhou Yi immediately squinted. Mujin, do you think that your students will win for sure? Although Mujin wasn't young, her appearance could definitely be described using the words young and pretty. She smiled, shaking her head. That's not true. There are no absolutes in this world. However, I've heard that there aren't any particularly outstanding talents from your class this time around. At the very least, I've heard that you don't have any students who are above rank 30. What a pity. Zhou Yi's gaze turned chilly. Are you trying to provoke me? Mujin's smiling expression instantly vanished. So what if I am? Doesn't your class 1 have good results? I want to see how many of the students who you've taught can get into the top 8. When I saw that my seeded team was paired up against your seeded team, I felt very happy. Ever since you expelled my disciples even when I bitterly begged you not to. This is the first time that I felt this happy. I've heard that you want to be promoted to a senior teacher, but you might be out of luck again. However, Zhou Yi didn't pay attention to Mujin's provoking look. She cast her gaze down to the arenas below her and fixed her eyes onto the 8th arena that Huro Yuao's team was on. Then, she indifferently said, would you like to make a bet with me? Mujin's objective had been to enrage and humiliate Zhou Yi. Thus, she didn't hesitate to reply after hearing Zhou Yi's words. A bet? What are you betting with me? Zhou Yi finally stopped ignoring her. Turning around, she spoke with a serious tone. 1 soul bone. Do you dare to bet with me? After hearing the word soulbone, Mu Jin's eyes suddenly shrank. A soul ring was already an extremely precious item to a soul master's, as a soul master needed a soul ring to be able to break through the existence known as a bottleneck. However, soul bones were 100 times more precious than soul rings. Every soul master could fuse with 6 soul bones, which were the skull bone, the torso bone, and the forelimb bones. Every soul ring could give a soul master 1 skill, while a 100,000-year ring could give 2 skills. In other words, an ordinary soul master who managed to cultivate his way to the 9-ring titled Douluo stage should possess 9 skills. On the other hand, soul bones were a completely different story altogether. Every soul bone would give a soul master another skill, and would drastically increase the strength of the body part it was added to. Soul rings were items that soul beasts would definitely produce, but that wasn't the case for soul bones. Only 100,000-year soul beasts would definitely produce soul bones. On the other hand, soul beasts below the 100,000-year rank would only have a 1% chance of producing a soul bone. The appearance of any soul bone would definitely cause a scramble among soul masters. There was a saying in the world of soul masters: if one wanted to become an outstanding soul master, he would definitely have to work hard and increase his soul power, while obtaining an optimal soul ring. However, if one wanted to become a peak level soul master and become a true expert in the Douluo continent, he would definitely need to possess a soul bone. Furthermore, a person would become even stronger if he possessed even more soul bones. From another standpoint, a soul bone could even have the same effect as a medicinal pill, as fusing with a soul bone would increase the soul power of a soul master to some extent. At this moment, Zhou suggestion of a soul bone was practically her bringing out a fortune to fight with Mu Jin. Hence, how could Mu Jin not be astonished? She didn't understand where Zhou confidence was coming from. A trace of disdain appeared at the corner of Zhou's mouth. Get away from me if you're scared. I don't want to smell that nauseating perfume of yours. A fierce light flickered through Mu Jin's eyes. Fine, I'll bet with you. Were you trying to scare me away using empty words? If I lose, I'll give you a soul bone. But if you lose, I want Fanu to make me a close combat soul tool. Zhou coldly replied. I'm the person who's betting with you, not him. If I lose, I'll give you a soul bone. Mu Jin humphed. I don't want your soul bone. I want Fanu to make me a close combat soul tool. Fine, I'll reply on her behalf. A deep voice rang out. A tall figure had already arrived at Zhou's side. This was the Soul Tool Department's Fanu, who Zhou had taken Huo Yuan to meet in the past. Once she saw Fanu appear, Mu Jin's expression immediately changed. Her previously arrogant and provocative temper had completely disappeared, and her face was somewhat pale. She took a slight step backward and looked at Fanu with slightly red eyes. You're teaming up with her to bully me. Fanu's expression remained calm, but he furrowed his brows slightly. You're the one who's pointlessly causing trouble for other people. If you want to make a bet, come. If you don't want to, don't bother Zhou. As for our relationship, we're merely co-workers, nothing else. I'll bet. Why wouldn't I bet with her? Even though I lost to her, it doesn't mean that my students will lose to hers. Mu Jin suddenly turned around, tightly holding onto the railings with her hands. Meanwhile, her already tearing eyes turned towards the arenas within the assessment area. Huo Yuao's team weren't aware that a scene like this had occurred on the spectator stage. They were currently completely focused on their opponents. The 3 young ladies in front of them were very pretty. They wore freshman uniforms, just like Huo Yuao's team. The girl standing foremost was rather tall. She was even slightly taller than Huo Yuao and Wang Dong. She had short golden hair and seemed extremely nimble. Her large blue eyes had long eyelashes above them, and there were a few cute freckles on her cheeks. The girl behind and to her left had short fiery red hair, while her eyes were a rarely seen shade of red. At a glance, she seemed somewhat scary, but if you observed her carefully, you'd notice that her facial features were extremely exquisite. Her skin was jade white, but the gaze in her eyes was extremely cold. She was even comparable to old Lady Zhou. On the other hand, the girl on the right contrasted sharply with the girl on the left. A long head of light green hair was draped over her shoulders, while her dark green eyes were filled with warmth. The delicate feeling she emanated caused one to unconsciously feel the need to be tender towards her. The proctor announced, both parties, enter the arena and introduce yourselves. The 6 people from both teams simultaneously entered the wide arena and stood by their respective sides. Huo Yuao's team of 3 maintained their original formation, with Wang Dong standing in front, Xia Xiao in the middle, and Huo Yuao right at the back. However, the 3 girls changed their formation a bit. The golden-haired girl who had originally been standing at the front now moved to the back, while the other 2 girls simultaneously advanced to protect her. The red-haired girl arrogantly announced, Class 9, Wu Feng, I'm a rank 25 Assault System Soul Grandmaster. The green-haired girl glanced at her with a rebuking look in her eyes, as if she were blaming her for being too arrogant. She had even announced her own soul rank. However, she didn't change the format of her introduction. The contrast between her soft voice and Wu Feng's arrogant voice was as great as the contrast between their outer appearances. Class 9, Nan Yuna, I'm a rank 24 Agility System Soul Grandmaster. A monotone voice then rang out from the back. Class 9, Ning Tian, I'm a rank 31 Auxiliary System Tool Soul Elder. Once her words left her mouth, Huo Yuao's team was instantly stunned. A rank 31 Soul Elder. They had truly never expected to meet one of the 3 Soul Elder ranked freshmen just when they had gotten into the round of 16. Furthermore, she was even an auxiliary type Tool Soul Master. It had to be known that the cultivation speed of a Tool Soul Master was generally slower than that of a Battle Soul Master. However, their opponent had been able to reach rank 31 and obtain 3 soul rings at the mere age of 12. This was no longer just a matter of talent. Although they were astonished, Huo Yuao's team didn't forget to introduce themselves. Since their opponents had started their introductions with their Assault type Soul Masters, they did so as well. Class 1, Wang Dong, I'm a rank 24 Assault System Battle Soul Grandmaster. Class 1, Xia Xiao, I'm a rank 22 Control System Battle Soul Grandmaster. Huo Yuao was the last to introduce himself. Class 1, Huo Yuao, I'm a rank 17 Control System Battle Soul Master. After hearing the number 17, Wu Feng curled her lips in a very obvious manner, exposing a look of contempt on her face. Wang Dong slightly squinted his eyes and fixed his gaze on Wu Feng's body. He didn't know why, but he felt as if a fire had been ignited in his heart when he looked at Wu Feng's disdainful gaze. Wu Feng also sensed his gaze. Their gazes met, and Wu Feng snorted coldly. The smell of gunpowder had already appeared between both parties, even though the match hadn't even started yet. Huo Yuao patted Wang Dong's shoulder, causing him to look back. Their gazes met, and although nothing was said, they both knew what the other person was thinking. Right at this moment, the proctor loudly shouted, "Match, start!" Wang Dong's feet tapped the ground, causing him to shoot off. His dazzling pair of golden wings suddenly unfurled as he charged forward. Regardless of how confident they were, they couldn't help but blink and secretly admire the beauty of his radiant butterfly goddess brilliant pair of wings the moment they set their eyes onto them. Likewise, Wu Feng let out a soft cry, causing her delicate body to suddenly spring up. A strong wave of heat then surged out from her body, even causing the soft cry of the dragon to ring out. Wu Feng's delicate body then suddenly became slender. As she jumped into the air, her appearance unexpectedly turned into that of a matured 16 or 17-year-old girl. Her slender body directly tore her uniform, exposing the skin-tight clothes underneath. Clearly, she had already made her preparations. She wore an extremely elastic leather suit inside, exposing her large and delicate thighs. Furthermore, her leather suit was like a jumpsuit that got smaller as it went higher, enveloping her soft chest that had become plump after she released her martial soul. A light red luster rippled through her skin. An exquisite set of dragon scales started appearing on her face and spreading downwards, following her arms until they reached her left arm. When Wu Feng's martial soul, which was also draconic in nature, was compared to Beibei's blue lightning tyrant dragon's martial soul possession, it was much softer. However, that was only relative. The powerful aura of a top-ranked martial soul surged outward, causing 2 yellow soul rings to instantly rise from her feet. Wu Feng's figure seemed slender and pretty, but she gave off a feeling that made it seem as if she was filled with explosiveness. Her body flickered, and she instantly appeared before Wang Dong. Then, her left arm swept sideways in an attempt to whip at Wang Dong's body. Facing her tyrannical attack, Wang Dong didn't counterattack with a soul skill. Instead, his body half turned in midair while his right leg shot out like lightning, colliding with Wu Feng's left arm. A muffled bang rang out, and Wang Dong's body was sent flying 5 meters backwards. On the other hand, Wu Feng was forced to the ground. Evidently, Wang Dong was the one who'd suffered a loss during their initial confrontation. Although they were both assault type soul masters, they had different different strong points. In terms of physical strength, the radiant butterfly goddess clearly wouldn't be able to take any advantages from the red dragon. At this exact moment, Nan Yuna made a move. In the instant she moved, her body was as light as a feather, as if she wasn't affected by gravity. However, her speed vastly exceeded Wang Dong and Wu Feng, who were fighting. With a flash, she crossed several tens of meters and arrived in front of Xiao Xiao. A pair of dark green wings had appeared on Nan Yuna's back, but were only visible after she'd approached them. Her wings weren't large, and they definitely weren't as dazzling as Wang Dong's radiant butterfly goddess. However, they caused Nan Yuna's speed to become incomparably quick. At the same time, her hands turned dark green in color, making them resemble those of a jade statue as she swatted at Xiao Xiao. Meanwhile, the distant Ning Teen extended her right hand, shouting with a clear voice. The 7 treasures revolved to produce a glazed pagoda. Then, she quickly spun around, causing a dazzling 7-colored light to immediately emanate from her body. This then caused a 7-colored pagoda that was a foot tall to appear in the middle of her right palm, where the 7-colored light had gathered. This pagoda flickered with an overflowing amount of color, making it seem as though there were an innumerable number of gems that had been embedded in it. Once it appeared, it drew the attention of everyone standing on the tall stage. Ning Teen's 3 soul rings, which consisted of 2 yellow rings and 1 purple ring, rose from her palm, circling the 7-layered pagoda in a rhythmical manner. Up on the spectator's stage, Mu Jin turned towards Zhou Yi and Fandu, right in time for her to see the astonishment in their eyes. Zhou Yi couldn't help but cry out, "The 7 treasures glazed pagoda of the 9 treasures glazed pagoda clan." Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.